What would you say if I told you that in 2025 Iraq passed a shocking amendment to its personal status law that activists warn could drag women's rights back by generations, with reports sparking outrage that girls as young as 9 could now be legally married? Can you imagine the horror of a childhood being stolen by law? Welcome to Hey Girlie, the channel where we uncover global stories of justice, equality, and women's rights, and today we dive into a regression of rights, an in-depth analysis of the 2025 amendment to Iraq's personal status law. Passed on February 17, 2025, this amendment dismantles Iraq's once progressive 1959 personal status law, which had been praised across the Arab world for setting the minimum marriage age at 18, restricting polygamy, and giving civil courts authority over marriage, divorce, and custody. Instead, the new law introduces a so-called choice of law mechanism, where couples can opt into sect-based religious laws instead of being protected by one unified civil code. Why is this so dangerous? Because this change doesn't just fragment Iraq's legal system, it opens the door to child marriage, legalizes unregistered unions, strips women of protections, and deepens sectarian divides that have already torn the country apart. Imagine a girl who has barely learned to read being married off at 9 or 10 years old, her education cut short, her health endangered by early pregnancy, and her identity defined not by her choices but by coercion. Imagine unregistered marriages where women cannot claim custody of their children, where children may not even receive birth certificates, and where abandoned wives are left without financial protections. Doesn't that sound like state-sanctioned erasure of entire lives? Think of the human cost: early pregnancies that risk young girls' lives, cycles of poverty and domestic violence, and entire generations of women pushed back into silence. How did Iraq go from the modernizing spirit of 1959, when its personal status law was hailed as one of the most advanced family codes in the Middle East, to this devastating regression in 2025? The answer lies not in faith but in politics, sectarian power struggles where leaders bargained away the rights of women and children in exchange for political loyalty and influence. This was not reform, this was regression disguised as choice. Protests have already erupted across Baghdad, with activists, women's rights groups, and ordinary citizens demanding that this law be overturned, warning that it destroys equality before the law and makes justice a privilege of sect rather than a right of citizenship. International observers and human rights organizations are condemning it as well, because the implications reach far beyond Iraq. This is a global warning that progress is fragile, that women's rights are never guaranteed, and that silence in the face of injustice is complicity. And so we must ask, can any society truly move forward when its laws push its most vulnerable citizens backward? At Hey Girlie, we are here to amplify these voices, to expose these regressions, and to remind the world that protecting women and children is not just policy, it is humanity itself.